So the trade period for the 2023 period is done. The AFL trades have been completed. 36 it says here in total. Now my job is to go through every one of those and grade them from A+ being the absolute best trade and F being the absolute worst. Now these trades will be graded based upon how that player will fit in that team. How much did that team give up for that player? It's more revolved around the player that goes to the team rather than what the team that sold the player got. If that makes sense. Now before I go, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Plenty of these trade grade videos going up. Plenty of top 10s in the last decade. Check out the TikTok as well, FTFooty. Make sure you check everything out there. Starting off, the first signing of the window, as we all remember, was James Jordan. Now James Jordan, I believe he went from Melbourne to Sydney. Free agent signing, which is key, okay? Being a free agent means Sydney paid nothing to Melbourne. They gave up absolutely nothing. According to Melbourne fans, this guy was deemed as a mid player. Like, he wasn't very good, but a young player, midfielder, loads of potential. How high is his ceiling is the real question. Overall, I like the trade. It gets a B+, close to an A for me. Matt Flynn. Now, West Coast got Matt Flynn from GWS, also a free agent. West Coast needed Matt Flynn. Nick Nat retires. They need some rucks. So I do like the signing. Matt Flynn wasn't in favour at GWS all that too much. So overall, I'm not too fussed about it. It gets a B from me. Joel Hamlin. Sydney got Joel Hamlin on a free agent, unrestricted free agent as well. Fremantle didn't receive any compensation. Biggest L from Fremantle I've ever seen. Sydney absolutely get the W on this trade. And in terms of what Joel Hamlin will bring, I think it would be a good player for them, at least a depth player given the McCartan departure from Sydney, given the other McCartan is injured a lot, given Rampy's injuries. I like it. It's an A from me. Not much risk involved. Nothing given up for him. Tom Dodie, another free agent signing. Now he went from Adelaide to the Brisbane Lions. I do like him as a player. However, he is awfully injury prone, so it's a massive risk on Brisbane, but when he does get his body right, we've seen what he can do. He's a very promising defender. Given that nothing was given up for him, and I think that he suits Brisbane. Brisbane can afford to take a risk on him given that it was a free agent signing. It gets an A from me. Essendon, they signed Toddy Goldstein from North Melbourne. Free agent signing as well. However, I am not so convinced on Todd Goldstein as a player. He's old, he's aging. I think age is heavily catching up with him. Yes, Essendon lost Phillips, so they did get Goldstein, a like-to-like replacement, relatively speaking, given their age. However, I'm not too convinced about it. For me, it's pretty uninspiring. It gets a C. Ben Mackay, free agent. Essendon get Ben Mackay, paying him ludicrous amounts of money as well. 1.4, 1.5 million in his first year of his contract. Absolutely ludicrous. Nonetheless, it was a free agent signing, so North Melbourne, look, they got compensation, pick 3, so they dubbed up on that trade. Essendon didn't give up anything for him, so overall, a very good trade for Essendon. However, is he as good as Zerk Thatcher, the defender they lost? I'm not so sure about that. I think it still gets an A because he is a defender in his prime years. However, maybe it's the name that carries weight for him, but I don't think he's that good of a player. The Dogs, they got James Harms. Now, no more free agent picks, I believe. Melbourne was given a future 3rd round pick. The Dogs get James Harms. Good player. Good midfielder on the sort of outskirts of Melbourne's midfield. Found it hard to break in every now and then because of, Melbourne have some of the best midfielders in the comp. The same with the Dogs though. They've got just as good of a midfield, so I'm not going to see much change there. I think it's pretty uninspiring. C+. North Melbourne, they got Dylan Stevens alongside pick 25, and Sydney received a 3rd round pick, a future and a 1st round. So a couple little things in there. Overall, in terms of how Dylan Stevens is going to fit North Melbourne, I don't like it. North Melbourne always pick up these players who seem to have some sort of potential, but that potential was not fulfilled at a previous club, and for some reason they think that bringing that player to their club, their potential will be fulfilled. However, it's just not how it works. They make these signings all the time, and they never seem to work out. Yes, he's young. He was a high draft pick, but he hasn't shown that much at Sydney. And Sydney is also a team that favours youth quite a lot, so it's quite concerning in that regard. C. Brodie Grundy, big trade. Melbourne received pick 46 and a future 2nd. Sydney get Brodie Grundy. Brodie Grundy is perfect for Sydney. Get rid of Tom Hickey, bring in Grundy. Loads to prove. He's now the #1 ruck. He has no one in front of him as far as I'm concerned. He should be getting game time. Get his body right. It's a B+. Reason it's not an A or A+, it's just because the last couple seasons he has been poor, so it is a risk in that regard given his recent form and age as well. Taylor Adams. Sydney got Taylor Adams. Collingwood got pick 33. I think Collingwood massively win on this trade. To get pick 33 for a guy who is in his 30s, for a guy who is injury prone, and for a position where Collingwood are, they have a plethora of midfielders. They have a complete abundance of players there. This will allow for Finley McRae to break into that midfield now. So this is a win for Collingwood. So in that respect, it's great. We're looking at how Taylor Adams is going to fit Sydney and how Sydney done getting that trade. I think they've given up far too much. I understand the trade, get some experience in that midfield, some big-bodied inside work there. So in that respect, I'm going to give it a B. However, I'm not as sold on this trade as a lot of people think. I could see a world where he gets injured and just sort of retires next year as well. I don't want to put that out in the world, but I see it. Zach Fisher, another signing North Melbourne get, a player who's in the fringes at Carlton or has showed loads of promise, and then, you know, North Melbourne pick him up to try and get that promise and that potential out of him, where it's just not going to happen. It is a dub though. North Melbourne get Fisher pick 17, Carlton got pick 21 and 25. So you could probably say around pick 25 was given up for him, which I think is far too high in hindsight. Overall, I don't like the trade. I'm going to give it a C for now. I don't want to give it anything lower because that sounds harsh. And he is young. Well, young relatively speaking. Now we've got the Adelaide Crows, Chris Burgess. He went to the Crows from Gold Coast. I don't think he showed anything at Gold Coast. What's he going to show at Adelaide? I don't think anything. I think it's a lackluster trade. It gets an E from me. Really, really uninspiring. And that's from a team, Adelaide, who will be striving to get into the 8, not with trades like that. Jade Gresham, free agent, St Kilda to Essendon, easy A+. Probably one of the most talented players in the trade period. Definitely one of the best. Free agent, so Essendon give up nothing for him. Midfield forward, in his prime, looking good. Love the trade. North Melbourne signed Toby Pink as a delisted free agent, I believe from Sydney. C, don't know much about him. Tom Fullerton, Melbourne signed him from Brisbane, who got picked 47. I guess he's young and is a tall player. Do they need that? Perhaps. I'm not so sure. However, inspiring again. D+. The other thing I'm basing these grades around for the trades is, for the team that picked up that player, what are they striving to do? For example, before with Adelaide picking up Chris Burgess, they're striving to make top 8. That's not a good signing in that respect. However, you know, if a team like North Melbourne signs someone really young and promising, that makes sense. But if you're striving to make the finals, maybe someone with a bit more experience, that makes sense. So everything is contextual, okay, with these gradings. West Coast got Tyler Brockman. Hawthorn actually got picked 44 and 63 for him, which is quite remarkable. That's quite a lot given up for him. Yes, he's young, but if you can't really get consistent footy at Hawthorn being a great player, are you that good? I am not so convinced about that. C, I think C is pretty fair. Bigoa, look, as you can see from the background here, Richmond fan, okay? Bigoa just couldn't break into our team. We've always been stacked with defenders, so I think it's more so he just needs to find game time elsewhere. He's a good player. He was good for our VFL side for a long period of time. Richmond get pick 65. You know what? I think it's worth more than that. North Melbourne get the W on this trade. I think it's a B+. I think it's a trade that is slept on. Collingwood get Lockie Schultz. Fremantle get pick 34 on a future first round pick. Big trade for the Pies. Big win. Best player in the trade window alongside Jade Gresham. Easily an A+. Rate this trade. Collingwood needed him because Ginnivan's gone. Banger trade. St Kilda get Liam Henry. Easy A. I think he's a good player. Wasn't working out at Fremantle because Fremantle. St Kilda, they'll get game time, or they'll give him game time, sorry. Jack Higgins can probably move to a more midfield-based position given his endurance, which means that Danny Butler and Liam Henry can occupy that small forward position. He's promising, he's young, he's quick, he's good. Shane McAdam, he went to Melbourne from the Adelaide Crows for a second round pick. Bit of a weird one, X-Factor player, but inconsistent, pretty irrelevant. Is that what Melbourne needs? Another sort of inconsistent forward? No, it's a D for me. Really, unfortunately, I have to say it. Yes, he's shown good things in his career, but I'm just not convinced. All right, we have a deadline day trades now, and there's some fat fucking trades here. Four-way trade here. For these four-way trades, it's always hard to see what players are given up for what amount. So we're just going to do this based on how the player fits that club. St Kilda got Paddy Dow. Hate it. Hate the trade. Can't break into Carlton's midfield. Why is he going to break into St Kilda's? Was so close to being delisted. I think that's an E. Uninspiring from St Kilda. And he's 24 now. Like, it's not like he's a young player, okay? Nick Caulfield. The Dogs got Caulfield. I like this. I actually do like this trade. In and out of the St Kilda side, but I think he has shown bits and pieces throughout his career. He can't play midfield there. Probably won't break into the wing. So, in that respect, I don't think he suits the Dogs because of their midfield prowess. I do like him. I'll give it a B overall. Ivan Soldo, big player. I loved him at my club, Richmond. I'm going to miss that sexy moustache man. A regen of Ivan Maric. So, big sad day to the Tigs. Port Adelaide, big news out today as of recording, October the 31st. Scotty Lysette just retired. So, he's going to be their big main ruck in my eyes. I think it's an A. I think it's a great pickup. Overall, not too much given up for him. Hawthorn gets Jack Ginnivan. Loads of different trades here. Future thirds, future first, future fourths, current first, current fourth. Rating this based on how Ginnivan suits Hawthorn, I think it'll work. I think in that environment, he'll thrive. He'll be a bit more of, the main man that he sort of craves, I feel. Like in a game, in a big game, he craves that feeling of, he's him. So I think it works. He is young, which suits Hawthorn's list and their aspirations. I am hesitant. I feel like giving this an A seems wrong because of the risk that he brings off field, but I will give it an A. I'm not sure about that. Port Adelaide, they got Jordan Sweet. The Dogs got picked 50. A good second ruck. However, could you have spent your money better? I'm not so sure. Gets a C+ for me. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, Port Adelaide are going on a tall buying spree. They got Sava Radaglia for quite a few picks, including pick 94. Pretty pointless pick there. No one's going to use that. But Sava Radaglia, he suits Port Adelaide perfectly. Tom Jones retires. Radaglia comes into that role. A bigger body defender, which Port Adelaide have been craving for years. The likes of Hawkins dominating those Port Adelaide defenders. Finally, they have someone like Asava. That's an A+ for me. I think it's a perfect trade. It suits them well. It suits their aspirations of going for a flag too. Carlton got Elijah Hollands. Look, at the time, it sounded like a good thing joining his brother, but then the news that he was snorting too many lines and he got caught for doing that brings his trade down to an F. Absolute L of a trade in hindsight. Jack Billings, he went to Melbourne from St Kilda for a future third. Such an Melbourne have just been so uninspiring. Players like Billings, who are just underwhelming at St Kilda for years. How's he going to break into a stacked midfield? It's an F. It's just such an uninspiring signing. I'm sorry if you're a St Kilda or Billings fan or whatever, but I just don't like the trade. Jack Gunston, I hate this trade. This is an F. This is the worst trade of the window by a country mile. He was gagging to come back to Hawthorn on his knees, ready to give the glizzy. And I'm disappointed in Sam Mitchell for saying yes. Obviously, they're teammates in premiership years. Even Gunston was coached by Mitchell for a short period of time. So there's a connection there, but just given what Hawthorn want to do with that young list, it just goes away from their whole list strategy in my eyes. There were talks that Gunston would just retire because Hawthorn wouldn't pick him up, but they crumbled under the pressure. I didn't like that, and that's why it's an F. Brisbane, on the other hand, from that trade, got Brandon Ryan, who's a young player, and that works with them. I mean, will he break into that side? Obviously not. The likelihood is no. However, he's young, so he'll eventually become good, hopefully. I think that's a B. Move on to Mabia Chol. Easy B. I think this is a classic B. Chol and pick 62, go to the Hawks. Gold Coast get a future second round pick. All in all, how much is he worth? I'm not so sure, but I think this is a trade that works well for Gold Coast and Hawthorn. Look, Chol's still in his prime. He's still a good player. He still offers a lot. And I think he's a good age for Hawthorn to sort of nurture those younger players. Versatile, I think Mitchell might struggle with his inconsistency. However, I like it, but not so much to give it an A. Hence, it's a B. Massimo D'Ambrosio, I love this guy. Richmond VFL player, goes to Essendon, now is at Hawthorn. I think he's a great player, heart and soul player, that kind of vibe. B+ for me. I think he's a slept-on player, and he should suit Hawthorn well. Essendon get Xavier Dersma, bow and arrow guy. I like it. I really like it. Essendon have done really well there. That gets an A from me. Really promising player at Port Adelaide. He's young. He's got so much room to grow, and I love that trade. Now, conversely, Port Adelaide got Brandon Thatcher, the defender. Obviously, big trade there. Look, this guy has always been a little bit smaller and skinnier than his opposition forwards that he plays on. So in that respect, he should improve if his body puts muscle on. Hopefully he's not like the microphone, if anyone remembers him, who couldn't put muscle on. Now, Brandon Thatcher, I do like him as a defender. However, how much do I like him? Does he suit Port Adelaide? He's not going to get ahead of Radaglia, but I think he'll be that sort of second, smallish, well, obviously tall, but smaller defender. It gets a B+. I was going to give it an A, but in hindsight, it gets a B+. Now, one more trade that has just happened as a recording was Orazio Fantasia. He went to Carlton as a free agent trade from the Port Adelaide Football Club. Didn't work out at Port Adelaide. Injuries, fucking inconsistency, just didn't work out, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to be any different at Carlton for him, for the reason being is as you get older, your body's not going to start healing any better. Let's be real. And I think just his best years with Essendon, no longer. He hasn't been good for a long time. I get what Carlton are doing. Like, he's going to be a squad player, a depth player who could break into the team if he gets his body right and plays consistently good footy. And because it's a free agent signing, I don't feel comfortable giving it any less than a C. So I'm going to give it a C+ because it's uninspiring. However, Carlton don't lose anything from it. I'm back for some more signings. Now, ignore the lack of a shirt. I just got to film this right now because as of editing, some things have changed. Now, I did forget Jacob Kazitsky. Kazitsky went from Hawthorn to Richmond for like a pick around the 50s, I believe. Really don't like the trade as a Richmond fan. I just don't think this guy's going to deliver much. He was about to be delisted from Hawthorn and they snagged a pick from Richmond. I really think it's probably a D. Also signing for Richmond was Sam Naismith as a ruck, a free trade as a delisted free agent. That trade, look, Richmond don't don't really need rucks. It's probably just a C for me. Doesn't seem needed. And then lastly, Oscar McDonald as a free agent as well, delisted free agent, signs for Fremantle. Uninspiring, very poor from Fremantle, and just the whole list strategy. This whole window has been awful. That trade of Oscar McDonald gets a D. And that is it. They are all the trades. Let me know if you agree with all the gradings. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow the TikTok FTFooty like I said before, and I'm going to see you in another video.